Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are back on the dev server, and what we're going to be having a look at is the data mine changes. For some reason, when it comes to the changelog for the updates, it doesn't actually provide all of the changes that have come in. So these are the extra ones, which have actually happened, but haven't been talked about in the changelogs. So what we're going to do is a series of videos on air, ground, and also naval, going through all of these changes. Pretty much all of them are to do with pre-existing vehicles, so if you're interested in those, make sure to have a look. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe and also like the video. Let's get started. The first one is the EFV. Now, they've changed quite a few things on this vehicle, so straight after the event, it's moved around. First of all, the lateral movement of inertia has been increased, and also the hydrodynamics improved. This means that it should be better in an amphibious condition. Also, the water jet, the reverse thrust, has been reduced by 40%, which means that it won't be able to move as well reversing in the water, but it should be pretty good going forward. The other thing they also changed, which is probably more useful for the vehicle, is the gunner optics. Before, at least on the live server, it's 4 times to 12 times, whereas now on the dev server, it is 3.5 to 20 times, so you'll be able to zoom in a lot with this gun, which will mean that engaging at range will be a bit easier, and also means that you'll be able to use those thermals a lot better for the vehicle itself. So overall, I'd say that's quite a big win. Another vehicle that has actually been changed is the PGZ-09. This vehicle has a completely different radar compared to what it had previously. Basically, what they've done is change everything on it. It used to have a band E to I, E, and now it has I. It also has a max range of 20 kilometers now instead of 25. They added detailed NCTR, meaning that it will be able to see and predict everything that it's seeing. They also changed the scan pattern, which means that it can actually see taller now, up to 45 degrees instead of 10. And at the same time, the bar height has increased as well. The tracking one has also changed for the vehicle as well. You can see here the NCTR and also missile guidance is available for it. And they added many other features, including more power to the transmitter and the band changing from J to I. So overall, big buffs for the radar and the PGZ-09 should be really nice to generally use. So talking about some other American vehicles now, what we have first is the Leopard. Now, there was kind of a funny bug with the Leopard. Even if you fired all of your missiles, for some reason, one of them would still stay in the rack. You weren't able to fire it. It was just there, meaning that you could actually be destroyed through it and everything would explode. So now they've actually fixed that. So once you have fired all of your missiles, now you will not have any more missiles there. So that's very positive. Then we have some changes to the M1s. First of all, we'll actually talk about a general change to the Weeb vehicles. You have the M1A1HC, which is right here. What they've done is they've added the crew replenishment icons that we talked about about a week ago in the data mine. So you can see here is the one for the M1A1 Weeb edition. Then you have the Leopard 2A4M, which is right here. That also gets its own kind of crew replenishment, which is sat here. And then the Russian one, the T80 UE, or the UE1, that also gets its own crew replenishment. So a little bit more unique, something to kind of set it apart compared to the other vehicles, not just for the camo and the profile picture, but that as well. So generally quite nice. Talking about another Abrams, there is changes to the M1A2. I did talk about this previously, but I just wanted to mention it again because I think it's quite important. For the M1A2 Set V2, you can now actually remove the TUSK package. So you can either have it on or have it off. And this actually changes the weight of it and also changes the protection. This is huge because it basically means that you can remove a lot of the additional weight, which generally doesn't actually give you a lot more protection on the vehicle against the vast majority of threats that you are going to face. Hopefully this is something which gets expanded to other vehicles and makes them a little bit more useful. Another American vehicle or set of vehicles has also been changed. The M3 Bradley and also the M3A3 Bradley has been moved around. What they've done is they've completely remodeled the armor. So on the front of it, it used to be 25.4 millimeters for all of the different pieces. Now it has changed from 25 to 38, 52, and then 38 as well. So basically you have a lot more armor in terms of the actual hull of the Bradleys, and it works a lot better. The same has also happened to the turret. You can see all of these aluminium alloy 5083 pieces, instead of being 25mm, are now 38mm. So this means that against kind of small arms fire or autocannons, it's going to be a lot harder to actually penetrate the Bradley compared to before, which is a huge change for the vehicle, because before it basically meant that you could just go through it like paper. But on the lower glacis, you can see here, you have 52mm, where previously it was 25. So now the effective thickness is like 70mm, which, you know, is pretty good, especially if you're facing stuff like the 25mm or the 20mm. You'll actually be able to shrug them off now, instead of it going straight through. So big changes for the Bradley and also the M3A3 as well. It's actually really, really nice. The next thing, which is actually kind of cool too, is they have made it a bit easier to play specific AAs. So for the Florak Panzer, the Roland, and also the M975, they've made it so the Roland 3 SAM is available stock. They've also done the same thing with the Rapier, where the Rapier, you can actually get access to the Mark II on stock as well. This might be something to do with the change that they made in terms of the cost of these things, because they still have the modifications available to them. So maybe this won't actually go through when it comes to the live server, but it's just something to take into account. It might make it easier to be able to grind those vehicles out. The Stingrays also got changed. So not just the American one, but also the Thai one. You can see the Stingray right here. So this vehicle got its armor completely revamped as well, mainly because of this high hardness rolled armor. So this one, unlike the Bradley, actually lost armor compared to it. So you can see it's all 13mm around the place, where previously it was 15mm or 25mm. So the Stingray will be a lot less tanky compared to before. It's one of those things where it's technically going to be, it has half the amount of armor that it did previously, but it also previously had no armor. So basically, there won't be really a huge difference between it. So it's just something to take into account. It will now, it'll be easier for it to get overpressured. It'll be easier for it to take damage from, you know, small arms fire. So just take into that account. They're also changing the T58 for the Americans. This one is more interesting to me because the T58 has been a very, very powerful vehicle wandering around for it. But what they've done is they've made the whole turret volumetric. So you can see here that generally, wherever you shoot it, it's going to have a different value. They have fully modeled the turret, not just this cast homogeneous armor base, but also this area here, where, you know, it actually rolls around. So it's probably going to be a little bit easier in areas to pen, but a lot harder in others. And this thing will still be a monster at 8.3. Another thing to also mention is they did actually fix a bug on this thing. Basically, if you hit the first stage charges in the back of the turret, they wouldn't always detonate. Now they should detonate properly. So if you are one of those people who penned this thing and knocked out the autoloader and wonder why it didn't explode, well, now it should be able to explode. So I think that is a very positive thing, especially since this is a very, very powerful vehicle. For all of the Leopard ones, they actually added something pretty cool. This is across the board. Gaijin has been really pushing for adding more and more and more of these updated damage model things, right? And for the Leopard ones, they've actually added in the turret hydraulics. So you can see here, you got the vertical aiming, got the horizontal, but then you've also got the hydraulic pump, which is right here. If you shoot this thing out, it means that it will block the gun aiming until field repair. So you won't be able to actually move the gun from where it is. This powers the horizontal and also the vertical on the vehicle. So therefore, it's connected to those. Now, this is on all of the Leopard 1s. So stuff like the Leopard 1A5, the C2 Maxus, the 1A2, and also the standard Leopard 1 as well. So all of them got updated. Then the Leopard 2K got updated as well with a model change. They actually added 150mm of CHA on the gun trunnion. So basically, it's going to be a lot harder to actually penetrate this thing. You can see the trunnion right here. They've actually marked it as one now, which they didn't previously. But yeah, this is 150 millimeters. They've also done this on a bunch of other vehicles as well. I think maybe the Type 10s have a setup for this as well. They also added the turret hydraulics to this, but it's a little bit harder to see since it has like the full basket on it as well. But maybe I can take off the armor and just kind of show you what I mean. But yeah, so they're basically adding in slowly but surely more and more of these kind of updated things, and I think that's generally pretty cool on it. And even though it's going to be a bit annoying in terms of it, you can see the hydraulic pump back here actually. So if you hit the back of the turret, that will actually knock out the vertical and horizontal drive of the turret itself. So yeah, kind of sucks. Another set of vehicles that is surprisingly getting changes is the KV-1s. And once again, it's a bunch of armor changes. This is affecting not just the German KV-1, the KV-1C that you see right here. It's also affecting some other vehicles as well. So, for example, it's affecting this. And then I think the Russian KV-1 is also getting some changes too. But for the German one, what is happening is they're changing all of its armor. So the middle hull front, which is there, it's instead of being 40 millimeters, it's now going to be 75 millimeters. So it's going to be way more tanky than it was previously. This means that that low glacis shot that a lot of people do, you're going to have to be very precise on it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to go through. But the turret front cheeks have actually been reduced, which makes it a little bit easier to go through. So they're 80 millimeters instead of 105. Then the turret front above the gun, which is like this area here, has been changed too. This used to be 105. Now it's 70 millimeters. So basically what has happened to all of these is they've just fundamentally changed how you face KVs. They've made the turret a lot weaker than it was, but they've made the hull a lot stronger than it was, meaning that it's going to be quite hard to pen the vehicles as you go around. They've also massively changed the Tigers and how their armor works, because why not? Let's just keep changing everything in terms of armor. So all of the Tiger ones, the turret ring on all of them, so this area right here, this used to be 85 millimeters of RHA, which is basically what you see here. Now, what it's going to be is 15 millimeters of structural steel. So if I show you like the Tiger Ost, for example, which is like the premium vehicle of this type, there's many of the different ones, or maybe if I can just find like the standard Tiger H1, there we go, because they're all basically the same. The turret ring is changing. Like this area down here will actually be approximately a very, very small amount of 15 millimeters. What they've also done is armor around the turret ring. The effectiveness is now limited to 80 millimeters. So no matter what happens, it cannot go over 80 millimeters. So this is going to become a shot trap just like it was before if you're able to actually get the shell into it, which is going to be kind of hard to do. Now, generally, is this going to change the vehicles that much? No, but it's just something to take into account while playing these things, that you do have these smaller holes in your armor which are getting added in. The BMDs are also getting changed. Like, it's just nuts how many armor changes are coming in. But the BMDs, pretty much all of them are being changed. The BMD4, the turret front is now going to be 50 millimeters instead of 40. The mantlet has basically gone from the 40 to 30, so that has also slightly changed in terms of the vehicle. You can see it right here. The turret sides are now also 40 millimeters instead of 20, and also the underside is 42. So basically it's just made it a little bit harder to pen. It shouldn't make a huge difference, once again, just against stuff like autocannons and lower caliber rounds. These changes are pretty much coming to a lot of the BMDs, and also the BMD4M is getting a massive amount of armor changes too, moving around a lot of stuff. So they are fully kind of like modeling in the armor on these things now, which, to be honest, I thought was already modeled in, but I'm guessing it wasn't. You can see here the BMD4M2 gets a lot of changes as well, with 50 millimeters here, 30 millimeters here, and then 60 millimeters of this alloy PAS1A. But basically, on all of the BMD4s, all of their armor has been changed. Nothing has stayed the same. It's all different now. Whether it's like plus 10 millimeters or minus 10 millimeters, it's kind of all over the place. With the introduction of the BTR82AT, they've also improved the BTR80A. What they've done is they've added a bunch of little features to it. As you can see, they've updated the model to it, and what they've done is added the power system module, so you can see it right here in the back, and they've added 5 millimeters of structural steel spall shield around the ammo too. So around here it'll be a little bit harder to be able to pop the ammo, but it still should die pretty quickly. The big change is the power system. For the T90A and also the T90S. Now, there's a little bit of controversy about this one, so I'm not sure if it's going to stick or what's going to happen because it's not actually on this area. They've added a spall liner to this, and then they've also added a spall liner to the Bishma, but I don't think either of the vehicles actually have a spall liner. There was some talk about it being something that was supposed to be like an anti-radiation liner, but I'm not really knowing what's going to happen there. But right now, at least in the files, this vehicle and also the Bishma have spall liners, but they don't at least show them on the dev server. And as I said, there has been some comments about it not actually being a spall liner, so don't get worried too much yet. T64 is also changing once again. This, its cupola is changing, which is quite a large change for it. You know how like the Soviets just have ridiculously overpowered cupolas for some reason? Don't really know why, but so for example, the T64A used to have 100 millimeter of CHA armor around its cupola, so overpressuring it through there was pretty much impossible. Well, guess what? They've now changed it to 3 millimeters of structural steel. So the difference is quite aggressive compared to these two. So you have 40 millimeters on the top, but this piece is 3 millimeters. So even with some very, very, very light machine guns, you can actually penetrate this and destroy the crew, which is pretty nuts. So that generally is quite nice. All the ZSU 57-2s got a buff as well, all of them in the game. What they did is they increased their rotation speed or turret rotation speed to 36 degrees instead of 30, making a massive difference for the vehicles. Then for the Badger, the mighty Badger, you can see that they added a scout UAV to it at some point. Don't know when. Maybe it came out with the scout UAV. I can't remember, but for some reason mine isn't spaded. And then also they changed a few of the factors on it. So target tracker, previously it depended on the FCS. Now it depends on the electronics. So if your electronics get knocked out, you can't use the target tracker, which generally is fine. And also the laser designator sensor was changed to a laser beam riding sensor, which we'll have to see how that affects the vehicle and how it's going to work. Some other British changes have come in too. You have the Challenger 2E on the 12.7 on the top of it. Just remember, this one actually has a 50 cal instead of others, which is kind of fun. But the 50 cal on the Challenger 2E, this one has reduced limits on its maneuverability. So before, elevation-wise, it could go up to 72. Now it's stuck at 69. So it's a little bit worse, but generally should be fine. Overall, the Churchill is getting even fatter. So the Mark 7, which is one which has always been treated pretty poorly by Gaijin, putting it at a BR where it's not very useful. Well, guess what? It's now even more engrossed. This vehicle was 41.5 tons. Now it is 44.2. So it's just got even more chunky in general, which is very sad. They also changed some stuff on the Rams. So the Ram Mark 1, which I think is in the tech tree. Yes, it is. It got added in the last update. You know how they made like the turret volumetric, which is really nice? Well, guess what? They also just made this one volumetric too. So this little machine gun turret that you see here, it actually also has volumetric armor. So the Ram is pretty much all volumetric armor now, apart from like this piece and like also like straight pieces, which don't need to be volumetric. So that's kind of fun. A little change, but you know, something that is quite nice. Another really positive change for the British is the Vickers Mark 1. So the Vickers Mark 1, by the way, if you haven't played it, very fun vehicle. Great mobility, great reload for a 105 as well. One of the best that you'll find in the game. And yeah, it's just really enjoyable. They have massively boosted this thing. So the engine, instead of it being 608 horsepower, is now going to be 709. So a big change once again, which will be really, really good for it. Another change they've done is for the Type 10s. So this is the TK number 3, or the TKXP, and also the TKX that you see right here. What they've done is added the Trunnion that I talked about before. So you can see here that you have the cast modulus armor, which is around it. And then also there's like different pieces. This is the Trunnion that you can see right here that they're adding into these vehicles. This is 150 millimeters of CHA. So this should technically make it harder to knock out people's guns and make it a little bit more so people don't just shoot the middle of your vehicle. Whether that's actually going to happen or not, we'll have to see, because obviously everybody will do anyway. These vehicles also got that target tracker that we talked about before for the MBTs, meaning that you can track, planes with it, but it's kind of worthless, but at least it's a new thing, I suppose. Type 90 is getting changed as well. Not a huge change, but it is one. The Type 90, what they're doing with it is they're reducing its overall ammo count. So instead of it being able to carry 42 rounds, it will now be able to carry 40 rounds. I don't know which psycho is carrying this much ammunition in a Type 90, but if that is something that you do, then you're affected. Mainly, people only take what's in the autoloader, and maybe a few extra at most. But yeah, if you are a person who is a 42-round connoisseur, you will now have to become a 40-round connoisseur. They also changed a bunch of engine sounds for a ton of vehicles, which generally, you'll find out as you play them. It's mainly just stuff like the AFT and the CSSA5. Well, sorry, the M41D and the PTL02. The CSSA5, what they actually did with it is they made the FB10A stock, so you actually get it straight away. But once again, I think this might be a bug to do with them making the missiles not cost anything. So they might have just added them as something that you get stock, instead of putting in the system. So don't get your hopes up that these vehicles will get these missiles straight away just because of that. There's also a change to the VT4s. So this is not just the VT4, but the VT4A1. They've actually split the ERA blocks into smaller areas. So basically, it means that there is more chance that you'll keep ERA blocks after they get hit. So this actually does make a bit of a difference for the vehicle, at least on its upper glacis. It means that survivability against CAS is a little bit better, but I've got to be honest, it's very, very small compared to what it is before, right? Then you got the OF40s, so they are slightly changing these. It's once again just improving the internal models of more vehicles, which is something that they've been continuing to do. So this is for the standard OF40 and also for the OF40 Mark II that you can see here. What they've added is 5mm of RHA spore between the crew and the engine, so there's going to be a little bit of a wall here. They've also added turret hydraulics to all of these vehicles, so if that gets taken out, you can see the hydraulic pump here. You once again lose your vertical and horizontal targeting, which is really annoying. They've also massively changed the Lorraine for some reason. So the CA Lorraine, which is right here, this was actually a really fun vehicle back in the day, but they've made a bunch of changes to it now that are definitely not going to help it. So the gun that you see, the 100mm SA-47, which is a very good gun, they have increased its limits to its horizontal and vertical ability. Basically, instead of -9 and +9 on the horizontal, it's now -10 and +10. Then up and down, it's actually, the elevation is increased by 3 degrees. So you can actually go up to 19, which is quite good, with the gun depression staying the same going down. The issue is all of the rest. So the sight zoom is slightly increased, not a lot, but enough to be kind of interesting. But the mass of the vehicle has gone up by like 8 tons. So before it was 25 tons, it is now 32.9. And on top of this, they've reduced the horsepower of the engine. So the horsepower used to be 685. Now it is only 600 on this vehicle. So it's heavier and also has a lot less power in the engine. Another thing they've also done is removed a forward gear on this thing. So it has less gears to accelerate through. They've also removed 10 kilometers an hour from its max speed. Now it's 52 instead of 62. And the max reverse speed has gone from -16, which was so nice on this vehicle. You could shoot and scoot so well. It is now -3. So the CA Lorraine effectively lost all of its mobility. And yeah, it's going to be so hard to play now compared to before. Before it was kind of like a niche, fun mobile tank destroyer. Now it's just going to be a brick with no armor, very much like a lot of these other SPGs that sit around the place. One of the French tanks that actually did get quite a few buffs, though, is the ELC Bis. So the ELC Bis was always a bit weird when it came to War Thunder, basically because of the fact that it was labeled as a tank destroyer. This meant that it didn't get access to light tank mechanics, even though it was very obviously a light tank in the game. Well, Guardian has changed their tune, and now it gets airstrike and improved optics, signaling that it is a light tank, and therefore it will get access to scouting, and it would actually be way nicer to play compared to previous. So I think that's really, really good, and generally very nice too. Another vehicle that also gets this treatment is the CV90-105. One of the funniest things about this vehicle, the TML, was they obviously just added it in from its previous version, which used to be the premium version, and removed its stabilizer, right? Because that's basically what this vehicle is. They kind of forgot about the fact that they added a new mechanic, though, within that time, and they added the Scout UAV to it now. Every light tank in rank 6 and above is supposed to get the Scout UAV, but the CV90-105 just didn't, because as I said, they just forgot to add it. So now it gets it in this update, which is really nice, but it's just kind of weird. The other thing is it gets another buff. So its engine has basically gone from an 800 horsepower engine to a 815. Oh no, sorry, that's the wrong vehicle. My bad. That one hasn't changed. I was thinking of the CV90-120, which is there. So this vehicle actually, when spaded, has a 800 horsepower engine. And now, when you actually fully spade it, it will actually get an 815 horsepower engine, giving it just a little bit more to it, which I think is nice. There was 3mm of structural steel, which was added to the turret of the Tiger II, the Kung's Tiger, and then also the Spider. For some reason, they've decided to nerf it, which is a little bit rude. This vehicle, now the radar deployment, the big stick, is going to take 3 seconds instead of 2 seconds, and also the folded radar no longer has collision, so therefore it's not going to run into stuff. So those are all the changes to the pre-existing ground vehicles. As you can see, there's quite a lot of them and quite a few to get to. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time.
I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.